Welcome to the Think Generational Wealth Podcast, episode number 85, and I am your host, Amir Estimo. I'd first like to say thank you very much for everybody that took the time to still be able to download my podcast, even when I was out. And I'll start off and say, I think the summertime probably be the best time for me to take a break from the podcast because, if anybody that has kids, you understand that they take up, you're trying to keep them busy and entertained, so it takes up a lot of your time. So I had to make a choice. I'm like, okay, let me take a break from podcasting. So, and I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed a 2 months hiatus. So I think that will probably be something I'll be doing going forward. So probably podcast. Probably give or take 9 months out of the year. So I just want to put that out there. So if anybody that's expecting new content, I'll probably be looking anywhere between May, or I'll probably even say like June, all the way to August. I would say July or in August. So that's 2 months where I wouldn't be podcasting. So probably you wouldn't get any content. But I appreciate people that actually took the time to even listen to the podcast, so I appreciate that. So, and also I like to say I ended up getting another dog. That's been something of Chow Chow Pit Mix. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's been different. She's been keeping us on our toes. We've never raised a young dog. This is our second dog. We have a smaller one. He's a Terrier Yorkie mix. He thinks he's the boss. So we call him Hayden, and the other dog is Xena. So we have 2 dogs now, and Xena's just been keeping us on our toes. So, but anywho, I would like to just jump into the podcast. So today's episode is, I wanted to talk about the student loan relief plan, the debt relief plan. And I just wanted to open with my plight, and maybe some people they can relate to this, maybe some don't. To each his own. And I think we should live in a world where we should respect each other's opinion. It's okay. So for me, the reason I would say that, let me start off with a story of how I ended up owing student loans. So, obviously, you graduate high school, 18-year-old, and you just don't know really what you want to do, but it's ingrained in you that you must go to college. Like, that was something, my parents being Haitian, they grilled that into us, because for a lot of Haitian people, especially back in the 80s, a lot of people migrated or came and find asylum here in the U.S. So because of all the political unrest in Haiti, so a lot of the Haitians end up coming here, and some got dispersed in some got dispersed in New York and other parts throughout the country. So that was the early 80s or so. So you think about it, when they came here into America, all they really knew was, hey, we just got to help our family back home. That's, hey, you made it. Like, you go find a better life. And you think about it, back in the days, what were jobs paid? Jobs were paid, what, $4 an hour? That's criminal now if any job pays $4 an hour, right? So so they come here, and now here you are, born in America, and you American citizen. Hey, you now have to be better. So 18, pressure being told, hey, you got to go to college, and I knew I wanted to go to college. So I ended up going to college. In my first year, I did actually pretty well. I ended up finishing the year 3.2 GPA, and I enjoyed college the first year. But the thing was, I had to rely on my mom, because my mom at the time didn't make a lot of money. So that's why student loans is around, is to help people who want to continue an education. And so therefore, here, we're giving you this money right now. In return, later on, we're saying that you're going to go get a job, work for a corporate company, and you're going to pay us back with this much in interest. I'm going to touch on one of the key points in the student loan relief. If anything, I think, I don't care, like the forgiveness is one thing, but I think the key thing a lot of people are not really like thinking about is the interest rate. Okay? Like, let's focus on the interest rate. So now, my second year, my mom actually makes a little bit of money. So since I'm not working, so I'm dependent on my mom. She makes an extra $5,000, and it pushes us into a different income bracket. So now the what I got, because the first year I took out zero. I knew about student, like, hey man, do not take out student loans. The things are the devil. I used to hear all about it. And first of all, let me say this, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm not into politics, and I'm not in. There's two things you will not hear me talk about on the podcast: is politics and religion. I just don't like getting into those topics. I think for me personally, they're very divisive, and that's just something I'm not an expert at, and I honestly don't have much of an opinion on. Okay, so let's just get that out. But I'm just telling you my flight, and we're going to talk about the bullet points. And you know what? I would like to know what people think. What do you think? Like, do you think the student loan is helping us or it's not? Okay. Second year, so therefore I had to take out a student loan. So there begins my journey of student loans. And when I tell you, I didn't finish college. I went to school for engineering. I did not finish college. I stayed 6 years in a year too long. So if you put that all together, 7 years in college. So when I say a year too long, technically, let me see if I make this sense. Like, technically, it was a 5-year program. And the way I think college, like I hope this is not what their curriculum is still. But one thing that was tough being in engineering, studying engineering, is, let's say you're taking your actual classes. You know, you're in the university, you're taking your actual classes. You declared your major, because at the end of your sophomore year, you have to declare your major. And that's when you really don't see the loans, because you're like, hey, you're just here. What are you doing? You know, year two, you should have it figured out. So therefore, you got to year two. I declared engineering major, and I went to school of engineering. And if you didn't, I can say this. One thing I learned about college is college taught you to be on time. It taught you to be on a schedule. It taught you to be responsible. And those are things I don't know if I would have learned if I had still stayed in my city. And if I were to have a conversation with myself back then, my younger self, I would say stay home, but be focused. You got to be totally focused. You can't get involved in anything. You got to be level-headed focused. Because the classes you took, because the beginning of college, I had to take these. You had to basically take your interest classes, like English 1, algebra. Like, if you didn't take those things, you know, some of those you probably took in high school. And then you had to take it, because I remember I had to take, I want to say algebra 2 and so on. Now, I don't remember exactly, but anyhow, hopefully I think it was something like that. And now college starts to get expensive. Now you're not getting any money. Hell, you're like, hey, your mom making this money. So guess what? You're borrowing more and more money. So I'm someone who have a 5-figure student loan debt. And yes, I do. And I can say this. And to tell you this, I didn't even finish college. I dropped out of college because I ended up getting a job working for a retail company, and I started moving in within the ranks. And I was just like, you know what? I had to make a decision. It was stressful. It was constant stress, not doing well in these classes. So I had to figure out I don't operate well under stress. So guess what? I dropped out of college. And I ended up going back. I went to an IT school. I actually went to online IT school, and I started taking online courses. And that's how I got into IT. So anybody tells you need college, I think that was one of the things that really scared me when I left my retail. I was a retail manager, and I left going into the IT world. It scared me because I was like, I don't have a degree. But once you're in, and you come to find out this job it's very easy. It's very easy. So for me, student loans helped me get through college, and I think for me it helped me get through college, but I ended up started paying more now for the experience of college. So now, like I said about the school, is if you get into the engineering program, and some of those classes are offered once a year. So you had to wait. If you failed that class, if you did not pass that class with a C, you had to wait a whole year, which even now prolongs your graduation date. When I tell you, that's why I say I hope they're not still doing that. They're not operating under that type of plan, because all it did, it really hurt people. So if you're supposed to graduate in 5 years, now you're graduating in 6 years. And that's kind of what happened to me. When I got to year 7, I said, you know what? I think I'm done with this. All right. And I don't regret college, because college, I think if I did not go to college, I probably wouldn't have accomplished what I really wanted to do. Because, you're born in the city, you know a lot of people you went through elementary school with, middle school with, high school with. So it's like, and you guys are going to the same churches. You guys, it's like family. It's a city, everybody knows everyone. Right? So I can say this about student loans. That was my experience and how I ended up with student loans. And obviously just wasn't smart with the money, would take the money and go buy Jordans. I had all the new Jordans, and it was just not a wise decision. That's typical. You're going to find it a lot, especially when you're not financially educated. Okay. So now let's talk about student loans. So Joe Biden, that was something he talked about on his campaign trail, was he wanted to do something about the student loan debt. And there's a lot of mixed emotions about this, because there's some people saying, hey, I had this amount of debt, and I ate ramen noodles, and and I made it through and paid off all my student debt. Why is these people who don't? Why is it don't happen for them? Why can't they do the same? Right? And I think this is the thing about student loan. The one thing, when you think about it, I think one of the student loans is, the bullet points of the student loans is, let's begin. So now check this out. So since 1980, the total cost of both 4-year public and 4-year private college has nearly tripled since 1980. Even after accounting for inflation, federal support has not kept up. Pell Grants, which this is what I had got when I was in college, once covered nearly 80% of the cost of a 4-year public college degree for students from working families, but now only cover a third. So now this number has significantly dropped, which makes sense, because think about the number. I'm an analyst, so when you really think about the numbers, right, what happens? 1980, the cost has tripled, right? And then Pell Grants, this is what happened to us, was that Pell Grants, if you think, were starting to decrease. Loan amount was going up. And it says that has left many students from low and middle income families with no choice but to borrow if they want a degree, right? According to a Department of Education analysis, the typical undergraduate student with loans now graduates with nearly $25,000 in debt. Okay. So, and I'm reading this off the White House Gov, by the way, so anybody can go check it out. So this is where I'm getting this. We're going to be talking about this, right? So, the skyrocketing cumulative federal student loan debt, 1.6 trillion, rising more than 45 million borrowers. It's a significant burden on America's middle class. Middle class borrowers struggle with high monthly payments and ballooning balances that make it harder for them to build wealth, like buying homes, putting away money for retirement, and starting a small business. Okay. So we've seen that because of this debt, it's affecting, it's 45 million borrowers. You know, that's pretty decent because you think about it, America has what? 300, last time I remember seeing numbers, 324 million of us in this country. So 45, right? So 45 million people is affecting 45 million people. All right, 1.6 trillion. That's crazy amount of number. Yeah, 1.6 trillion. So that number, anyways, I can't do the whole math and how much the percentage, but wow, that's pretty significant amount of people in this country, right? 324 divided by 45. So that's 7.2, right? So 324 million people in this country. If you were to divide 45 divided by 324, that's 14% of the population. Let's round that number up. 14% of the population. Sorry, folks, that's what I was trying to get to. 14% of the population of this country is struggling with, we have 1.6 trillion. Okay? So now, what does the student loan do? How does this help these people, right? What the student loan does is what Biden is planning on doing. So if you had a Pell Grant during your college, and this has to be before, I think I was reading June of 2022. I don't know the exact date, but I think I was reading somewhere that as of June of 2022, you have to have had student loan before that date. Okay? So if you had a Pell Grant, you get $20,000 back. You will get $20,000, not back, but will be forgiven off your student loan. So if you have, let's say for example, you had $30,000 in student loan debt, now you end up having $10,000. Now, the thing about this is, let's say for example you had $5,000. You will not be given $20,000. You'll only be getting the $5,000. So that will be forgiven. You don't owe, you don't owe anymore, right? So, but someone who's probably $50,000, this makes a difference. This makes a huge difference because, $30,000. Now your debt to income goes down $20,000, right? And this, now we're gonna get into the interest, right? And as you go into, so now you've got the Pell Grant, $20,000 will be debt cancellation. $10,000. So if you didn't get any Pell Grant, you will get $10,000. Now borrowers who are eligible for this with their individual income is less than $125,000. And if you're a married couple, head of the household, $250,000. So anybody with high income individual household in top 5% of incomes will benefit from this action. So now the loan's also been paused until December 31st, 2022. So now as of January 2023, Biden's like, hey, now you guys got to start paying these loans back. Okay, rightfully so. So now what this does, Now they're proposing a new income-driven repayment plan. So instead of capping you at 10%, which they're currently doing, of your income, so that means if you're someone who is making $80,000 a year, you're paying $8,000 in student loan debt. So basically, you're paying $8,000 a year, and that even depends on how much of the principal is going to. So in that 8,000, probably like 2,000, the rest of it's all interest, which is what is killing the student loans, right? So now the cap will be at 5%. So that's the numbers show it will a student loan payment will be lowered by more than 1,000 for current and future borrowers. Okay, so let no 4,000. So if you're someone, let's say you're paying 8,000 a year, now you're gonna be paying 7,000, and you can take that 7,000 and invest it. If you're wise with your money, invest it, right? And also, the next thing he's going to do is also the interest rate. So now he's getting rid of the interest rates, which is key here. Because if any of you guys have student loans, you know what I mean. When I mean those interest rates are killer. You're paying $10,000. Let's say your balance is. And what really got me one day, I actually called them and I was like, explain this number. I see this number is $10.81 a day. So I said $10.81 a day. Check this out, folks. So if there was 31 days in the year, in the month, I was paying $335. That's the daily add up interest because you're carrying you're carrying a loan, right? So if you set, if I set a $400 payment, right? If I set a $400 payment, I'm only paying $61 or $62 if you round it up to the principal. You're not moving nothing with that. You're not shaking nothing with that, right? So the interest rates now, there will not be interest rates on your student loan. Okay? Your student loan will be forgiven after 10 years instead of 20 years. And what you have to understand though is a student loan, 10 years, you have to make sure you're making on-time payments, folks. So don't think, oh man, my loan be forgiven after 10 years. Has it been on time? So that means you would have to make 120 payments on time, consistently. Okay? So if the original loan is $12,000 or less, they will forgive it after 10 years and you're done. So they'll also, what we talked about, cover the borrower's unpaid monthly interest, so that unlike other existing income-driven repayment plans, no borrower's loan balance will grow as long as they make their monthly payments, even when that monthly payment is zero because their income is low. Even when that monthly payment is zero because their income is low. That's key, folks. So they'll cover that, right? But here's the thing, though. One thing I've come to learn about the way our government works, nothing is done for free. This is going to come back somewhere, somehow, folks. It's going to come back. And we've seen it. When the stimulus checks got sent, we were all happy and dandy. So guess what? Hey, now people are spending more money. Hey, you know what? You can actually start paying more for stuff. It's crazy. I went to Sam's the other day, and I used to buy eggs there, and it used to be like $3.38. I paid $5.98 for the same eggs. right? So just, hey, you know what? We don't do anything. The government doesn't do anything, and it's going to come back to us. But you know what? I think for some people, this will help. You know, $20,000 is a huge difference. $10,000 is better than nothing. So now your payments, you probably used to pay what, $500-$600 a month. Maybe now you're gonna be paying $400-$300 a month. Who knows? And for me, I think that's gonna be a goal of mine, is to pay off my student loans. So once I go through the process, so eventually what's gonna happen here is they're gonna let us know. So they're getting everything together. Yeah, so discretionary income, or he talked about 10% to 5%, right? So raise the amount of income that is considered non-discretionary income and therefore is protected from repayment. Guaranteeing that no borrower earning under 225% of federal poverty level, about the annual equivalent of a 15 minimum wage for a single borrower, will have to make a monthly payment. Okay? So loans are forgiven after 10 years, right? And this will help, folks. But what you're going to have to know that we're going to pay for it somewhere else, because that's not how it works. But at the end of the day, I think this helps. This helps. For someone like me, yes, this will make a difference. Now it really will motivate me now to pay off my student loans, because I don't want to wait 10 years. No, I don't want to do that. I want to live a life. I want to be able to have a life where money is not an issue. I don't want to owe people. I told my wife this, and I told her, and I said, things that are not important, assets, expenses, things like, having a brand. Let's say if you want a new car, you want a new car, or you want a phone, or any of that stuff. Those type of stuff you should just pay cash for. Maybe your home, you make monthly mortgage payments, or just buy cash. Who knows? If you can do it. Go ahead. But things that are not growing income, that's taking money out of pocket, should be paid cash for. And that's what I want to get to in life, is where I'm not owing nobody. I don't like owing people. So if $20,000 helps me get there, that's a start. Now I have to take care of the rest. And I know, hey, you know what? I'm going to be paying it somewhere. We don't know yet, but we will eventually, right? We will eventually. So I'll leave you guys with this, man. You guys can check out the rest of it as far as the student loan. But the main things, to go over, point number one, it's 10%. Your discretionary is going from 10% to 5%. They're raising the amount of income that's considered non-discretionary income, and therefore is protected for repayment. So someone is earning under 225% of the federal poverty level will have to make a payment. They'll forgive their loans after 10 years. So it has to be $12,000 or less of the original balance. And they're going to stop interest. So you will not pay interest. You will still pay interest, but the interest will not continue to accumulate. Okay? So you can check this out. And again, then they have, you'll save $1,000. So someone who's not paying the insurance, that's going to help. And there's certain actions also too you're entitled to. So there'll be certain things you can do. They're not going to stuff like as far as racial equity, not discriminating against ages. So there's a certain age category from what I've seen. Targeting people who are making less than $75,000. So there's certain things. So you can check this out on the whitehouse.gov. In December 31st will be the last student loan payment pause. So keep that aware. So beginning January 2023, you will have to pay your student loans again. So I went into this, and hopefully that really gives everybody a chance to understand that, yes, I know it's not fair, right? And you know what? Honestly, I don't even think I would have really even got upset about this, because to me it's like, okay, well, that helps someone. We're not all in the same situation. If that helps someone, hey, hopefully they can take that, $20,000 less, and now they can actually hopefully taking that money, invest in it, college. If your kids decide to go to college, because college is expensive, and probably college now is going to get more expensive. But you know what? If you're smart, I'm not here advocating people don't go to college, but you can start looking at other avenues depending on what you want to go to school for. Okay? So, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode, and I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be back talking about on the podcast. So hopefully I'm barring anything's wrong. I hope to finish out strong this year, the remaining of the year, dropping a podcast every Wednesday, 5 a.m. Central. Thank you for listening to the Think Generational podcast. And again, I am your host, Amir Estimo, and much love. Peace.